Session allows you to fully customize your board setup, from wheel size to board shape, even the thickness of your riser pads. But the question is, does your board setup actually matter in Session? For all of these tests in this video, I'm gonna have default advanced settings. For flip trick settings, I'm gonna have flip speed mode set to auto, same with scoop speed mode, and then I'm gonna have pop height mode set to global so that everything stays consistent. Grind alignment, I'm gonna have set to medium, and for board settings, everything is gonna be set to medium until I need to change them. First, I wanna test each part of the board on its own. So first up are the wheels. We're gonna start with the classic 48 millimeters to get a baseline. My first test is gonna be the roll test, see how long I can roll for. However, ever since version 0.0.0.72 in early access, you just kind of roll forever no matter what wheels you have. So in the current version of Session 1.0, I don't think this test is really valid. It was actually every version after 0.0.0.5 that would just let you roll forever. So in much earlier versions of Session, you would eventually slow down over time and come to a complete stop. The wheels had no effect on this. It was just how the game was, which was a lot more realistic compared to now. Cutting back to 1.0, look how far I've gone. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna see if there's a difference between the initial push off. I'm gonna time it, 3, 2, 1, go. And then just see how long it takes to get to the center of that other one. Roughly 2.66 seconds. Now for the power slide test, I'm gonna hold push for 3 pushes. And then I'm gonna start the power slide here and see, okay, so we got roughly about there. We're gonna go all the way up to a 60, and we're gonna try out these Ricta 60 millimeter wheels. 3, 2, 1. Okay, well, it ranges roughly the same. I don't even know if this is a valid test. And we don't know the durometer of each of these wheels either, so like the size really isn't going to determine that much. And now I got to do the smallest wheels in the game, these tiny little marshmallows, 32 millimeter classics. I'm not getting my hopes up for any differences whatsoever with these wheels, rolling wise and power slide wise anyways. So theoretically, these should be a little bit slower than the other ones. 3, 2, 1. No, it's still consistent, and you just roll forever. Now we got to do the power slide one. I really don't think it's gonna be different at all whatsoever. Nah, it's not. Now, even though the wheels don't make any difference rolling wise or power slide wise, they still do play a big part on how you move, like how much you're actually able to turn the trucks before the board actually hits the wheels and stops, and how much space you have in between your trucks, whoops, while you're grinding. So like I can move pretty far over and still be on the truck for the grind. Whereas if I had bigger wheels, I would not be able to get that far over. So the smaller wheels mixed with like bigger trucks gives you a lot more grind surface on that truck. And then going back to what I was saying earlier about how much you can turn. So if I had looser trucks, like you can push it right down to the wheels, but you're gonna have more turn because the board actually can travel further down. So back to the biggest wheels, the 60 millimeters, watch when I turn, you can't turn as sharp as you used to be able to with the smaller wheels. So smaller wheels will allow you to turn a little bit sharper, and the bigger wheels are gonna hit the board a lot sooner when you turn, not allowing you to get a sharp turn as before. Bigger wheels are also gonna stop you from getting as much pinch with this crook right here. So now with the smaller wheels, I'm gonna get a much bigger pinch, like way more pinched than it was before. Like look how far down that truck is for this crook. So do your wheels have any effect on how much speed you get or how far you power slide? No. But they do affect how much you're able to turn, how sharp you're able to turn, how much pinch in the grinds you're able to get, and how much grind surface you have overall for your trucks. Next up, we are going to be testing Griptape. There's literally only one test I can do for Griptape because it doesn't matter otherwise. So the test is dark slides. I'm going to do 3 big pushes. I'm just going to slide, see how far I get. I'm going to mark it with this pylon. Oh, apparently I'm taking Character Boy with me. 3 big pushes, do it again to see. Okay, yeah, roughly there. Now, all the grip tapes in here are pretty much the same except for this one right here, which gets rid of the grip tape on the edges, which might make us slide a dark slide longer. So 3 big pushes, 2, 3. See if it slides longer. Ooh! Oh. I don't, what was with that first one? What was different? So I landed here. That might be an important thing to remember. I landed right on that crack. I slid really far, a little bit past it. The next one, I popped a little bit earlier. Okay, no, I still landed on that crack. I landed like right on that crack, and then I didn't slide as far. Maybe that first one was a fluke? I don't know. Ah, man, I got excited off that first one. I think I've come to the conclusion that the grip tape does not really matter, even if it's cut away. Regardless of what your grip tape is, you're gonna slide the same for a dark slide. Damn, I thought we had something cool. Up next, we are gonna be testing the trucks. Now, according to Donovan Strain, who works for Creature Studios, he says that each truck is built piece by piece, which obviously it does look like it was built piece by piece. The Grind Kings have different bases. Obviously, the creepers are gonna look completely different, but he says that they all turn differently from each other. So that's gonna be interesting to test. The smallest trucks available right here are 129. We're gonna start with those, and I'm gonna have my 52mm wheels on. So the one thing that's gonna be the most noticeable about having narrow trucks is gonna be how much grind surface you have available. So I can lock right into this nose grind, like perfectly locked in, and I don't have that much wiggle room. Now, as for turning, like it kind of feels the same as any other truck. It all depends on like how much truck tightness you have. I've got mine set to medium. However, though, if you have narrower trucks and a wider board, the one thing you'll actually be able to notice here with narrow trucks is the board isn't going to touch the wheel as quickly as it would if you had wider trucks. The wheels are kind of hiding under the board a little bit more. So the width of the trucks could affect your turning, just like how the wheels did. Okay, so now I'm gonna switch to the widest trucks in the game, 169s. So going off of what I just mentioned with the turning with the smaller trucks, we're gonna see what happens when you have wider trucks and a wider board. So the wheels are gonna hit much earlier than they would if they were slightly more in, which is going to slow you down a lot faster. Oh my god. And now for the demonstration for the grind, I'm going to have a lot more wiggle room here. Like, even if I wanted to crook without a pinch, look how much of a crook I can get without a pinch, and with my entire truck touching. In comparison to the smaller trucks, if I wanted to get a crook on here, hang on. Yeah, that's about as far as I can get the crook without my wheels going on top. So here's a side-by-side comparison to how much you can get a crook without a pinch. Okay, now I want to test out a couple of like individual trucks and see how they grind, see if that's any different. I put on the smallest wheels so I could test just the trucks themselves without wheel interference, because if the wheels touch the top of the rail, they just keep me grinding forever, which voids the test. Starting with the Destructos, I did 3 big pushes before locking into a 5.0, letting it grind until I stopped, and then marked the average grind distance. I also didn't notice any difference in how each truck felt while turning. I tested the Grind King Disruptors, and they seem to average the exact same distance as Destructo. Same goes for the Creeper trucks and for Grind King Sparks. What's unfortunate about these trucks, the Grind King Sparks, they don't actually spark like they do in real life. So like those little black dots, that's flint. It's supposed to spark as you do a grind on them. However, it don't do that in session. There's no sparks. As far as grind length goes, it doesn't matter which truck you use. It doesn't matter like which brand you use. Like just the truck itself is always gonna grind like the same, pretty much the same distance. So far for this whole video, I've been using what seems to be all mid trucks. Some seem slightly less higher up than others, but in general, they're all pretty much the same, except for these Avalanche lows from Destructo. Now, the one big thing about having low trucks is if I have bigger wheels, look how quickly the wheels hit the board. I barely get to turn before the wheels hit the board here. So having low trucks with bigger wheels is really going to affect you. Needless to say, this combination is also going to affect how much you can pinch. Not being able to turn that much kind of sucks. So do your trucks matter? Well, for grinds, like the length, it does not matter. But the width of your trucks do give you a lot more or a lot less grind surface. So if you have wider trucks, more grind surface. If you have narrow trucks, less grind surface. The width and height of your trucks will actually affect how you turn depending on which wheels you have and how tight or how loose you have your trucks. Moving on to the board size and shape. We're going to start with the smallest size board that they have in session, a 7.25. This is where my flip speed being consistent is important. So with a smaller board, theoretically, it should be flipping faster because there's less resistance. So I want to see if I can do a double flip right here without doing a catch. Okay. So far, it doesn't look like flip speed actually changes. So right there, I got just over a double. So like landed in primo there. Now I'm going to test the biggest board in session, a 10.0. Now, theoretically, it should flip slower than the other board. It doesn't. It flips the exact same. Yep. Pretty much the exact same. Let's just do one more test though, just to make sure. Yeah, it flips the exact same. Flip trick wise, the size of the board does not matter. So the different size of boards and different shape boards, pretty much all they're really gonna do is give you a little bit more like slide surface. So like if I was on a narrow board right there, obviously this isn't like realistic right now if my foot was right there, but the fact is, I've got a lot more sliding surface with a wider board. Like that tail is ginormous. So I was able to utilize more of the tail to get that slide. Like if I was on a smaller board with a narrow nose, I would not be still in that nose slide. Let's go back to the smallest board. Let's try the nose slide and then see how far I can kind of push it. So the other board still would have been on at this point right here. I feel like that's the main thing with this the board sizes is like you're just getting a little bit more surface to play on. It doesn't affect the flip tricks whatsoever, like the speed or anything like that. Everything's still flipping the same as any other board. But that's what these settings are for. Like you can customize all these. If you want your board to flip faster, I mean, just set it to flip faster. So board size, does it matter? Not as much. The next thing we're going to test is going to be deck rails. So if you don't know what deck rails are, they're these like little rails that help you board slide like on curbs. Like you can board slide a lot further and try to protect your graphic. However, I happen to know that they do not protect your graphic whatsoever. We're gonna go with the thickest deck rails available. So we're heading back to Highline Bridge and I gotta test a board slide. We gotta see how far we can board slide, if it even helps. So we're gonna do 3 big pushes and then we're going to see how far we go, making sure that no trucks or wheels touch. Okay, so right at that pipe, I'll throw a pylon there. One more, why not? We'll do a back lip this time. See if I go any further. No, that's pretty much how far you slide. Already, as you can see, as I was saying earlier, does not protect your graphic. So that doesn't give me too much hope with sliding further with deck rails on. And for those that want to know how to remove deck rails, all you do is just go to the apartment, go to customize skateboard, go to deck rails, and then just click none. And there we go, we removed it. 3 big pushes, and then we go for the board slide. See how far we go. Pretty much the exact same. And one more, just to make sure. Yeah, it's the same. The one little thing I do want to test, though, I want to see if it gets hung up if I get on the rail a little bit earlier. So what I mean by that is, like, if it actually gets caught and stops you. It made me hop a little bit. I don't think that has anything to do. Okay, so wait, you can actually see this. It's the deck rails do nothing. Purely cosmetic. They're going through the rail. The full board is touching, so yeah, they're fully cosmetic. They actually do nothing whatsoever. That's disappointing. The next thing we're going to be testing are the riser pads. So since I know the smaller riser pads don't change too much, I'm going to just be focusing on the big one. What I want to demonstrate right now is how much turning you can get out of this. So like these are my default medium tightness trucks. You can get a lot of turning from that. Go to board setup. Let's just loosen that all the way because like I'm fairly confident that we're not gonna get too much wheel bite here. So the riser pad is making it so the wheels are so far away from the board that they go that far just to be able to barely touch them. So yeah, with really loose trucks, like you can still have a lot of movement without wheel bite. It is a little bit hard to control this though. I want to try to get into a front crook. Oh wow, the wiggle. Ooh, jeez. Well, the trucks are pretty much grinding like on the side. This opens it up to a lot more pinch because the wheels are so far away. Even with the biggest wheels, we're still gonna be able to get a lot of turn out of that before it like starts to actually slow me down. Like you can turn a lot more. So having these risers on is actually gonna help you with like tricks like this, like getting your wheels under there, like under a ledge. So more turning and more pinch, and the ability to get your wheels under a thin ledge or rail. Honestly, I don't think it affects pop height. Like you're always gonna pop the same every time. It might actually look different because since the board is so high off the ground, it has to travel further to reach the ground to snap. So you might be a little bit more vertical, but I think your pop height's going to be the same regardless of what your board setup is, because like there's this whole area right here that changes everything, pop height included. So does your board setup matter? It actually does. I mean, for some things, like your pop height's going to be the same, your flip tricks are all going to be the exact same, your slide distance is going to be the exact same regardless, your power slides are going to be the same, your speed's going to be the same, but your control while you're skating, like the amount that you're able to actually turn, the amount of grind surface you have depending on your trucks and your wheels. Board size will matter a little bit for nose and tail, but like who's really gonna nose slide like I did previously? It's unfortunate that deck rails absolutely do nothing whatsoever for you. So pretty much it's deck rails and grip tape that make no difference at all. That was really delayed. Board size doesn't do all that much either. Ooh. I mean, if I had a fatter tail, maybe that would, no, never mind. I mean, it probably would have helped a little bit. So play around with your setup, find whatever works best for you, for whatever style of skating that you want, like whatever kind of tricks that you do. So just experiment with some setups, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Yellow car gang strikes again.